Everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. New year and new legislature in Baton Rouge, and they kicked it off with a special session right after the inauguration in Baton Rouge. So here to talk about her first stint in Baton Rouge, Jessica Domangue, of course, State Rep, District 53. Well, welcome. How's Baton Rouge first couple of weeks?
It was, well, thanks for having me again. I always appreciate being invited on you guys' show. This special session was a really tough one, especially for the new freshmen. We've got a lot of very, very big group of freshmen.
Welcome to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and so we had some very heavy topics that we had to deal with, talking about congressional redistricting. We talked about closed primaries. We also discussed the Supreme Court redistricting as well. However, that was kind of put on the back burner, and that we didn't actually move full forward on that one. So it was just a lot of really difficult conversations to be had in that first special session. And it absolutely was a learning curve for all of us, especially the new people, of kind of how things work and where to go. And it was interesting.
Redistricting and as well as open closed primaries for elections, so we had this big red wave. We get a governor who gets elected on his first, he didn't even have to go to a runoff, first primary, he gets elected. Super majorities in both of them, and the first thing they do upsets like half of the delegation as we go into Baton Rouge. So it didn't seem like he rode the wave into it because it was upset, and a lot of people were not happy with the state map. So let's start with the redistricting, and this was going to be tough for anybody, particularly for now Garrett Graves, who seems like he's going to be replaced, or his district has been replaced. But when you talk about Terrebonne, our delegation voted no pretty much across the board, even though pretty much a red delegation. But we'll go from having Scalise and Garrett Graves as partners in our area to now Clay Higgins is going to be our representative. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's going to be different, and you guys didn't particularly go for it.
Yeah, it absolutely will be different because Scalise and Graves have done so much incredible work for coastal restoration, hurricane preparedness, the work after the hurricanes that they've done. And so they've done a lot. We see them very active in our communities and in our areas. And so it will be a loss for our area. As you said earlier, our entire local delegation, we all voted against these maps. My biggest concern is that it's taking Terrebonne Parish away from Lafourche Parish. And we kind of think of Lafourche Parish as our sister
Bayou,
parish,
right?
And so we
Bayou
associate each other. We've got the Houma Terrebonne Chamber of Commerce. We do a lot of initiatives with Port Fourchon. We do a lot with Nicholls State University. We do a lot with Fletcher Community College, the Airport Commission. There's a lot of economic initiatives that we've been working together with Lafourche Parish. And so my biggest concern is separating us regionally, them now being in what would be Steve Scalise's district and us being in Clay Higgins' district. I certainly hope that those two regions are still able to work together, especially on those initiatives. And I know that we locally will be able to do those things, but I just mean nationally. And I think what would be really kind of detrimental as well is if Washington recognizes Terrebonne Parish as an offset of Lafayette and recognizes Lafourche Parish as an offset of New Orleans. It's two totally different geographical areas. And so that's just my biggest concern about where it is. We have reached out to Congressman Higgins' office, and hopefully we can get a meeting set with him maybe over the summer after we get home from our sessions, just to kind of talk about what it is that our needs are and what it is that we need to work on together. And, hopefully it all works out, but we do have some concerns.
Look, they're Cajun, we're Cajun, so there's some things there, oil field related kind of things, but they're not worried about levees like we are down on this side. So let's take a look at the maps, and you can see where we're talking about as the blue and the green are separated by the purple. The blue, if you look down at Terrebonne and Lafourche does go with the New Orleans delegation. That would be more Steve Scalise. The purple would go all the way to Cameron Parish, Calcasieu Parish, all the way over there to the west, and that would be Clay Higgins' district. And that's where it separates the Bayou region, really, which has become such a force. And then, of course, you had to make two majority black districts, and that's why you have the little green one and a little purple one that kind of carved their way through there, one going all the way up to Shreveport to get enough black voters in those districts.
Yes, yes. And so as you can see, one would the 6th district is actually the pink one that goes all the way, cuts through the state of Louisiana, is the new district, and that would be the area. It's been said that Cleo Fields is going to run for that seat. Now Garrett Graves can still run for that seat as well. However, that's going to be a difficult task for him moving forward. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those races.
Right.
But that will be coming up this November.
It's funny that they're already saying it's Cleo Fields' seat. I mean, he's already been in Washington, right? So
Yeah.
we see how that can sometimes work out. So it would be interesting to see. He was involved with some of the Jefferson stuff back in the days. But so, yeah, that was not the only thing. We got about 30 seconds left here. He also would talk about some of the primaries. And that seemed different. Y'all gave him a little win with that as they changed some of the primary. It's not going to be completely closed primaries. So.
It's not going to be completely closed primaries. And at the beginning of the week, the conversation started with having closed primaries all the way down to the local level. So as far as your council level.
Right.
And so as that conversation progressed, I believe the governor and your leadership in the House and the Senate realized that the appetite wasn't quite there for us to move full-fledged, and we can talk a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we come back.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more of Jessica Domangue right here on Bayou Time.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality. Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. Jessica Domangue is the state rep, District 53. And we didn't get a whole lot of time to discuss the primaries and going all the way down. I hadn't heard one person say, you know what you got to do when you get to Baton Rouge is get these primaries closed. It doesn't seem like that was a big issue. And it might have been, I know he had been in kind of the nationwide politics and the state politics. Seemed like 2 years ago he got the endorsement. Maybe that was a part of that deal that
You're referring to the governor?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know who else came up with this.
And I don't know. Well, Julie Emerson, she is a senior House member, and so she actually carried the bill. So I don't know what the intent or where it came from or what it was. I do know that this was something that the governor was very passionate about. And so, of course, it was something that was addressed in the session. But as I said previously, it originally started with closed primaries all the way down to the local level. And it didn't seem like anyone in the House or the Senate had an appetite for closed primaries, especially at that level. And so while we were dealing with congressional redistricting, we also had to address that. And so that there was a lot of conversations that were had. I personally don't think that we need to have closed primaries all the way down to the local level. Your local politicians, your councilmen, your parish presidents, they really should, and they should be apolitical in the meaning. Right. And my dear friend John Navy, I hope he's watching this because I'm going to quote him. He told me whenever I was serving with him, he said, "Just, you're never going to find a Democrat or a Republican stop sign." And I always did carry that with me because it's true. Because a lot of the things that you hear on the state and the national level, you don't hear on a local level, and we shouldn't hear those things. So I have a bit of a difficulty about our state central committees choosing the candidates, especially on those local levels. And what ended up happening and what we ended up voting for and it ended up passing was closed primaries for your federal elections, your state Supreme Court, your Bessie Board, your Public Service Commission. And these will not go into effect until 2026. So we still have some time. Cycle. Yes, so we still have some time to kind of tweak that out. There was a lot of conversation about independent voters and about non-affiliated voters. And so if you're a Republican, you would go in your Republican primary. If you're a Democrat, you would go in your Democratic primary. However, if you're an independent, because an independent voter is a registered party, in order for you to be an independent and get on a ballot, you would have to get 1,000 signatures, which seems pretty impossible. But if you are a non-committed voter, meaning you're not registered for any party, you can vote in any primary. So if you choose that you lean closer to the Republicans, you vote in that primary. If you lean closer to Democrats, but I guess the ultimate goal is to get people to pick a side and to say, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, and then we can move them forward that way. So yeah,
I just didn't think that big of an issue, but especially in this state, I guess it hadn't been.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of talk about the jungle primary and about, some things that happened in the past with the jungle. And I guess what they're really looking back is, you had that Edwards race with Rasponi and with Abraham, and that turned to be a little bit of a mess. And I guess the biggest concern is that with the jungle system is the candidates are using a lot of their energy attacking one another rather than going against the opponent. Right. And so if we get that out the way at the beginning, then they can really focus on the other person on the other side. So I guess I can see it for like a state level, but definitely I'm not quite sure about a local level. But let's give it a few cycles and see how it works out.
Well, that's how we had a Democrat governor the last 8 years.
Yes.
Because of that, basically. And so I think that's probably where that comes from. What's next when you go back to Baton Rouge?
All right, so February 19th is just around the corner. Right after Mardi Gras, we have a 3-week crime special session, which was Governor Jeff Landry's big campaign promise is, crime is affecting everyone and everywhere. And we talked about on this show before some of the difficulties we have here in Terrebonne Parish. A lot of focus on New Orleans and how can we clean up the mess in New Orleans. And so that'll be really interesting because that's his big baby is he wants to come.
State police and
well, he has sent in the state police. I saw that. So they've sent in the state police to help out New Orleans. But it'll be interesting, especially I want to see a conversation about mental health and about substance abuse and homelessness and all those things. I don't think that you can address crime. You can address crime without addressing education and addressing all those other things. So it should be a fun session, and then we're going to roll right into the regular session after that. But that's going to be one to really keep your eye on because it won't quite be as controversial as the congressional redistricting and closed primaries. It should be some really great things for Louisiana.
Well, and again, like I said, when you have the red wave, he kind of has at his back. Really, you would expect to start off with like, hey, kumbaya, as opposed to fighting over redistricting. But it's tough to be, and if it gets passed, it'll be this election.
Yes, and I just want to reiterate, we didn't have a choice.
Right.
This Judge Shelley Dick, she is from Central Louisiana. She actually put us up to a deadline of January 30th. So we had no choice but to do this redistricting special session right now. Because if not, she would have redrew the maps.
And that's the next one,
Yeah, and
right.
we would not have liked
The next fight will be Supreme Court.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, Jessica Domangue, appreciate your time. Good luck on your part-time job that's in Baton Rouge almost every week now. So thanks so much. We appreciate
Thanks.
it. All right, we'll be right back with more Bayou Time after this.